Welcome to another video, dear viewer. This is a strange video. I'm doing the intro to a video. I'm not sure how it's meant to end up, because the video is made up of various different clips that were going to be individual videos on their own. But I think it's better if it's all brought together because it tells a bit of a story. It tells the story really of the last, say, 6 months in some respects, and 3 years of ownership of a Land Cruiser and the car that I've chosen to replace it with. But the weird thing is when all of this was in my head being planned, like I bought the car a week ago and I'm looking at the week ahead and I thought, well, Thursday evening, I'll have time to do it. Wife's out in London for work. I'm looking after our boy, but he's asleep. So I have about an hour, maybe an hour or two before, the 5 a.m. Wake up that I had this morning from him gets to me. What I didn't envisage, and I don't think anyone did, was the death of Eddie Jordan. Hence the attire. It's a bit weird I think growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s to Irish parents who left Ireland in the 50s and 60s. Any little bit of Irishness that was on the TV, we jumped on. I remember my dad getting Birmingham Cable at the time, now Virgin Media, and threatening to get rid of it because he was promised the Irish channels would be shown on there, and which is a bit strange because in the 90s I think there was only two, RT1 and RT2. Well, yeah. But that aside, to go off on a bit of a tangent, Formula One, it was me I was really into it because obviously it's cars, fast cars and things like that. My mum and dad never really had an interest in it. But I remember the one Sunday in '98 Belgian Grand Prix. I'm trying to help my dad with something doing the roof actually, and I'm just coming in and out of the living room because one eye on the race, one eye on helping my dad. And I'm only about 10 or 11 at this point, and I tell them both. I says, I says, Jordan, I'm going to win a Grand Prix. And I think my dad looked at me and says, that's the Irish team. And I says, yeah, it is. So when he got to the bit where they won, honestly, both of them came into the room and watching Damon Hill on the top step, along with Eddie. And I remember my parents being quite pissed off that Aram Naveen wasn't being played because I don't think anyone expected an Irish team to win. But then even in the following year, when Frentzen really should have won the world championship, there was a lot of interest in it, in my house anyway, because for two people who left their homes, really, they didn't really want to, but was it economic refugees, I think is what Jack Charlton called them once. And it was good for them to see something good come out of the country that they left. And especially in '99, you had Frentzen and Jordan. You also had Eddie Irvine as well. A lot of Eddies in this. So for stuff like that, Eddie Jordan has a massive place in my heart, really, and he was really, really bloody sad what happened to him. But it has absolutely no bearing on the video. It's just the fact that, it's been in my head all day. I haven't been having a good day, and felt like I had to say something. So, God bless you, Eddie, and I hope you're well now, wherever you are. And that's it. That is a really weird intro to a really haphazard video that you're going to see for the next 20 minutes. Maybe. I don't know. But I hope it's enjoyable. I hope it's instructional, maybe. And at least offers some sort of insight into where my headspace has been, even for the last 3.5 years, but especially for the last 6 months where I've not been doing anything on the larder. But I will tell you now, there is no larder content in this video, so I apologise everybody, but it is what it is. So yeah, to you, Eddie. I know this sounds trite, but one mantra I seem to be living my life by is, what's meant for you won't go by you. And I like it. It's true in what it puts out there. Anything that is meant for you will come to you, the good and the bad. I'm not a man for planning. I've always lived a life where if an opportunity presents itself, I will go for it without thinking about it. That sometimes works out, but sometimes it doesn't. When I saw the car I'm buying here on eBay, I had to make peace with the fact that half of the criteria I set myself for a new car wouldn't be met. It isn't that much of a plot spoiler at the moment, but I really, really wanted a Citroen Berlingo, but I found something else instead. It occurred to me as I waited at Wolverhampton train station that I've never travelled to get a car like this. The furthest I've been was London with the help of a beaver tail to get the larder. Then there was Jack the RAV4, where my friend Sean rang me up to get it from Yorkshire. I hadn't used His Majesty's privatised yet publicly funded rail network to get me there before. It's a very much sight unseen purchase. This has bit me on the arse before. I've got a Rover 827 that I bought like this. But the difference here is that I'm not listening to someone I thought I could trust. I'm looking at the photos, the eBay description, and one of the cleanest MOT histories I've ever seen for a car like this. My gut, even after the crap beer at Wolverhampton, was telling me this is a good thing. It's hard to tell sometimes between a good feeling and an IBS cramp, but you know, I'm forever an optimist. The train took me from Stourbridge via Smethwick and Wolverhampton to Preston. Made famous by being on a motorway sign in an old 90s Oxo Cube advert. But the station was beautiful, even if it didn't have a working toilet. And this is the end of the line. The train got me to within 5 miles of the seller's address. But before I get into what I've bought, I should tell you what I've left behind. I have made one video relating to my Land Cruiser, and that was just detailing how to do the injectors on it. That's not to say I haven't tried making videos about it. As you see here, there are two of me with the same car. I have made 2 videos detailing everything about this Land Cruiser, and neither of them have ever saw the light of day. And why is that? The short answer to a long story is that the Land Cruiser let me down. In 3.5 years of ownership, the car was off the road for at least 1 month in a 12-month period. I think the first year saw it off the road for a total of 3 months. The injectors were knackered, the air suspension kept breaking. Some of these jobs were given to businesses to fix, and that in itself was a costly endeavour and caused other issues too, all of which I had to pay for. Throughout the ownership period, I just didn't enjoy it. There was always something, a nagging feeling in my head that something was about to go wrong. It didn't start like that, of course. I gave it the benefit of the doubt, but things would happen. It's too long of a story to go into right now, and I will detail it in another video, or at least something on my website. But right now, I can tell you the final straw that resulted in me selling it was this. In January, it was cold. and I was standing at some traffic lights and the heating went cold. It went warm again as soon as I moved, so I concluded the thermostat needed changing. Since June last year, I've had nerve problems in my arms, meaning fiddly work or even heavy work is difficult for me to do. Hence why there's been no larder videos since June. I've just not been physically able to do it. I have had an operation on my arm, but that hasn't been a success. So right now I'm trying to work the problem and see what I can do while I'm not 100%. And part of this was see whether I could do a thermostat. I went to do the thermostat myself after a few weeks waiting for a thermostat to appear in the post, as I wasn't going to pay £65 for one from Toyota UK. When it finally appeared, I went to remove some bolts holding the airbox to the car to make the job easier, but I just simply didn't have the strength to shift the bolts. So I gave it to a local garage who said they'd do it, but then rang me to tell me they couldn't do it, absolutely wasting my time. With the help of my friend Josh, we managed to do the thermostat. It was a horrible job, requiring a lot of parts to be removed before you even got to it. And even then, removing and tightening 10mm nuts by hand when your hand can start cramping doing fiddly work isn't ideal. This resulted in, I think, the cable to the alternator not being tightened properly and resulted in the main fuse blowing one rainy morning taking my son to nursery. Throughout the 3.5 years, it has been a cycle of worrying something will break, something breaking and attempting to fix it, and not being initially successful with that, and then actually fearing I've broken something in the process of fixing it on a car that has long been my dream car. I think I mentioned it in the injector video, but at one point when I was torquing the bolts down, I had a panic attack. I don't suffer from them unless I'm near an aeroplane or flying, so it was unusual for me to have it there and then. I had similar levels of anxiety and panic when I was fitting the thermostat too. And this is the crux of the matter. The Land Cruiser has been a nightmare for me, and it's been the worst kind of nightmare. One that dragged my mental health down, one that dragged my finances down, and one that dragged my happiness down while it never really replenished it through the joy of driving it. You can take the heartbreak sometimes if the car provides you joy when it's working. The only joy I had from this car was taking my boy from the hospital when he was born and him referring to it as Daddy's monster truck. But that's the joy provided to me by my son and not by my car, so it had to go. So given the hell I had with this, what did I replace it with? As I said, I really wanted a Citroen Berlingo. I think they're cool. I think they're the ideal vehicle for me. But my budget this time round meant I'd be getting ropey versions, which I don't think would be ideal for me in the short term. But while I was looking for Berlingos on eBay, I found a listing for this. Yes, this is a Subaru. It's a Subaru Legacy Sports Tourer. It's the 2-litre naturally aspirated 5-speed manual car. On the face of it, it's all sorts of wrong. The wrong engine, the wrong gearbox, the wrong car if you don't want galloping rust. But believe me, in 22 years of MOTs, there has not been a single mention of rust. I have a receipt here that shows it's been wax oiled recently. It had the cam belt done 20,000 miles ago. The gearbox oil was changed around the same time. Genuinely, the only broken thing on the car is the interior time clock, and that absolutely grates me because I didn't realise how much I look at the time when I'm driving. It's also considerably cheaper than my Land Cruiser to buy, and it's at the price point that if the gearbox shits itself, I could scrap it and not feel an overwhelming sense of financial loss in it. I could even rebuild the gearbox, and if it wasn't a success, there's no real loss in it. I know the clock is broken, but potentially the front wheel bearing needs replacing as well. But that's a £35 part. As I said, I got quoted £65 for a fucking thermostat from Toyota 6 weeks ago. I've got champagne motoring for lemonade money as far as I'm concerned right now. And that's it. A brief overview of 3.5 awful years of Land Cruiser ownership and why I replaced it with a Subaru Legacy and why I've not been around. I would say normal service will resume, but it seems normal for me to go off grid for 6 months at a time. So actually I would say I'm running to type at the moment. Please like this video if you feel sorry for me. Subscribe to the channel too, so you can see me suffer with various mechanical delinquents. But above all else, thank you for your time and thank you for watching.